You know, I'm going to talk about a game that's something that should have been out in this world, but unfortunately never came out. And it's something not about Space Marines. A Warhammer 40,000 game not centered around Space Marines, the poster boys of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. If you look at any promotional art, you'll mostly see the giant shoulder pads of the Emperor's finest. And the same goes for their games as well. Tons of 40k games greatly feature the Space Marines, either as the main character or as your greatest obstacle. But there was one game back in the early 2000s that dared defy this trend and threatened to bring to light one of the greatest races known to science and medieval fantasy alike. Orcs were and still are one of the defining races that make Warhammer 40k, well, 40k. Even the abbreviation could be possibly influenced by the Orcs. Instead of ORC, Orcs are spelled in 40k as ORK. So the 40k, as in the K that's in it, might mean that Orcs willed and believed all of Warhammer 40k to exist. But that's just a theory. A 40k theory. But seriously, the 40k gaming scene has been dominated by the boys of the Emperor, and it was ripe timing for a good Orc game to come to fruition. And that attempt was named GorkaMorka for the Dreamcast and PC. You see, GorkaMorka for the Dreamcast was directly inspired by its tabletop variant by the same name, where you roll some dice to crash, thrash, and take some loot to win the match, all the while running around in crazy vehicles. The game is pretty fun, and fans of the game are still maintaining it on various websites, so I recommend giving it a go if you're into it. And all that finally brings us to the actual game. Well, sort of. As the game actually was never released. In fact, it was cancelled mid-development and only a PC demo remains floating around the internet. You see, back in the day, the major consoles at the time were the Dreamcast, along with the GameCube, PS2, and the original Xbox, who came a few years later, with the PC gaming space still evolving. The Dreamcast had a lot of competition in those years, and at the end of its run, it was struggling pretty hard. During which GorkaMorka was in mid-development by a company named RipCord Games, who would be best known for publishing titles such as Spec Ops games and Postal. Well, the Dreamcast would be the most likely candidate to blame for GorkaMorka's death. Some sources mention that the developers possibly have said the Dreamcast era was ending and they didn't have time or resources to keep the game going and port it to a whole new system. Obviously, all this disappoints me, as the interviews from E3 about GorkaMorka received fairly positive reviews, discussing the untapped potential the game had, along with it bringing a whole new way to race and fight your friends. The gameplay seemed promising to them and made me wonder why everything went downhill. And that's when I found out about RipCord Games shutting down, along with the Dreamcast sorting out. RipCord Games did make attempts to bring the game over to Xbox, as stated before, with no success. That, and along with 6 other titles they planned for the Dreamcast flopping. And with no more financial backing, the company closed its doors in 2001. They still stayed around for another year to support their other titles until finally fading out. So, what we have now is a PC demo that's circulating the internet. And this. This is the trailer made for the game. It starts off in the grim dark desert with a grim dark setting with some grim dark orcs racing down the grim dark road. And sadly, the game doesn't have any cutscenes, or at least the demo doesn't, as we're first treated to a main menu with no sound and a few options. The extras give us a glimpse of some of the concept art though, showing various vehicles, orcs, and art for the menus you would navigate in the actual game. These images are also used as placeholders in the demo, but it's best to see them clearly here. We also have a menu with various tracks options, but they all just show a random image and what would possibly be there. The only track that we can play on is the demo Loop of Death, is the only map there available on the demo, so let's try and get started. Once we rev up our engines and start the game, we find the state the game was left in. The controls to turn a vehicle sadly aren't working no matter what I keybind them to, but I can go forwards and backwards, kinda, which allows me to trade paint with the wall, and, well, if I'm red, I can at least make the wall go faster, which in turn makes me go around the track faster, by orc logic at least. Alternatively, I can press G to switch to the orc controlling the gun, which lets the AI drive and allows me to fire missiles at my enemy. Now this is what GorkaMorka is all about, bashing and thrashing for teeth, which is the currency you gain from hitting anyone in this game. It also provides an interesting method to balance things out and keeps things interesting. You see, when you hit an opponent, you get a set number of teeth, but you also get that player's amount in teeth if you blow them up, but they don't lose their teeth. Basically, if I have 1,000 teeth and my enemy has 500 teeth, and I blow him up, he keeps his score of 500 teeth, and I gain 500 teeth for blowing him up, giving me 1,500 teeth. If he then later blows me up, he gets my total of 1,500 teeth, which he will then have about 2,000 teeth, plus whatever he gained from hitting me. Understand? It's a nice way to balance things out, as a good player can go for certain players to keep on top of the scoreboard, while other players with a lower score can focus on the first place player and get all of their teeth. You have options and opportunity to get to the top spot. It's like a lovely system that I applaud, and I hope more games like this take up this concept. It's like the Mario Kart mentality. If you're in front, you'll have multiple players trying to slow you down or even take you out. And if you're in the back, you'll be given opportunities to help you get back to the front spot, keeping the race tight and interesting. And that's it with the game. Throughout the map, you'll see some of the game design concepts that never got implemented, such as one of these signs that you'd shoot to activate one of the several traps on the track, such as this log. If you also look closely, you'll find plenty of orc war machines in Orc's architecture. You could really feel the love and inspiration the art team took and applied to this game, as the entire track looks very orcish-like, as it is pretty much set in the story of GorkaMorka, as everything is built from the skid of their giant ship crashing onto this desert planet, which in turn made a lot of racetracks for the orcs to have fun in. While looking up and trying to get this game working with a graphics injector, as it won't run on default in the video cards, I had to use a Voodoo graphics driver injector thing. The more and more I kept going through, the more and more I started to kind of fall in love with how old and how nostalgic it can be. You can't really get nostalgic with it only from its own merits, as it's never really was able to make an impact on anybody. But the simple fact of seeing its potential and how much of an impact it could have had on people makes me mourn for its loss. Honestly, I think it would have made an awesome addition to the PC library, and I hope that we can find a way to preserve what is left from this game's development, as I believe a lot of these abandoned titles should still be documented and kept archived, as this is Warhammer and gaming history here. It may not be popular, but it belongs in a museum, darn it. Hey, I hope you liked the video. All the sources that I got all my information will be in the description down below. And if you ever want to support the show, I do have a Patreon, I do stream on Twitch, and I do give updates on Twitter. So if you follow any of those, I greatly appreciate you. And if you like the video, please share it with your friends. I'd appreciate it. And with that, I love you guys very, very much, and I hope you have an amazing day.